Like, fuck the roadmap that everyone else has like laid down. Like, no, we're not gonna look at that. We're gonna look at like what in your body feels kind of like good. And if a podcast is it, now you're aware to that and you can take 7 months to start one. You don't have to start one right away, but just being aware to it is everything.
Hello, loves, and welcome to Finding Freedom with me, Amber Bishop Garcia, the space where we dive deep to uncover the truths that set us free. I am so passionate about helping women to reclaim their power and find the freedom that has been waiting for us all along. And if you follow me on socials, this podcast is where we take it to the next level. Together, we'll peel back the layers and go beyond the surface level, because let's face it, there's so much more to explore. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to today's episode. This is by far the most excited I have been. I've been excited for a full week to do this episode, and you'll understand why. So today I'm here with my bestie, Carly Cascella. She is literally everything. Brings so much joy into my life. Really, we've known each other since April, and we have gone so deep on the journey that we've been on since that time. And so I'm so excited for you to really hear everything that's going on with Carly, with us, with our relationship, and everything beyond. I'm gonna let her introduce herself now. Carly, tell us a little bit.
Hello, as I wave, like you can see me. Hello, I am Carly Cascella. I am known as your business bestie, and basically, I'm a hybrid of a mentor, an OBM, a VA, basically a unicorn is what some of my clients call me. As Amber refers to me, just for everything. Basically, what I've really enjoyed doing is just helping spiritually led business, like women owned businesses, find their path and find what connects and what makes sense for them in their business to thrive and be successful and live their truth and help other people live their truths as well.
I love that. And that is literally so on point. So when I met Carly, we were really going into like a business course together that we were doing. And it just led to this really profound awakening experience that we were having simultaneously, but nothing to do with business, really, mostly to do with ourselves and our deep intuitive parts of us. And so our relationship has gone from those things to really these deep depths of intuition, to finding our purpose and reclaiming our lives, and now into my business with me. So I'm so lucky.
It's so funny because one day Amber just like jumped on a call and she was like, somebody else was talking and she was like bursting at the seams with like something to say about whatever this person was saying. I didn't even know what they were saying. And she was like bursting to talk to them. She was on camera and I could just like see it. And I was like, I don't know why. Like at that point, like when we met, April, I would not even have defined myself as like spiritual or intuitive or anything. All I would describe it as was like the thought, I need to be friends with her. Like we are, we need to be friends. And I didn't even have an awakening or anything, which thanks, Amber. That's all your fault.
And it's literally hilarious. She literally went on my Instagram and like followed me while I was still talking on the call. And I just remember looking at my phone and being like, okay, I can do this. And it just became instantaneous. And it's just hilarious because our relationship has been everywhere and everything for like all these months that feel like so long, but it's actually not even that long. But the places that we've gone to together in like literally every aspect of life has just been wild and like so interesting and deeply profound at the same time, that it just kind of hats off to you as well for really going to that depth. And as you said, I was remember being on call with her and she's saying a couple of things and me kind of being like, are you sure that you're not spiritual? Are you sure that you're not like a little bit intuitive? I just kind of got this hit and she was like, no. I'm like, okay, we'll see. we'll see.
Okay, so this is like a wild journey how like Amber and I just got like closer and closer because I met with one friend. She told me intuition wasn't just gut feelings, which I had no idea. Because like whenever you talk about intuition, they're like gut feelings, but I was receiving images, and she was like, "Oh, well, that's like a type of intuition too." And I took that to a different friend who was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah." And she told me about her spiritual awakening, which like included Akashic record reading. And then I took all of that information to my meeting with Amber that we were having just like weekly to catch up on things. And Amber was like, I do that. And she's like, let's do that. She just
Let's
like
do that together. It's
she's
wild because like I'd been having like so many like soul readings myself, and like teacher kept coming up and like it's really time to start teaching, and it just kind of started to happen. And I would like join the calls of Carly and be like, well, like this is a little bit more about intuition, like this thing that you experience is really to do with this. I'm kind of picking up on this. And then I was like, oh, you want to know about Akashic Records? Do you want me to do it for you? Do you want me to teach you? And I remember the first session that we did together was wild. I was even shocked. Like, oh my God, you can see that? Oh my God, you know that? Oh my God, you had that experience? Like, wow, because this is your first time. This is not your first rodeo here, put it that way. And it's just led to this path of just going further and further and even changing. I think we both completely changed our businesses from that point. Because Carly, you can explain a little bit more about what your business was there, how that's led to where we are now.
I really have to like thank you because you really helped me reconnect with myself in such a deep, profound way. I honestly owe like so much of that reconnection to self, like to this relationship and to like our friendship, because you just taught me so much. And like giving someone the power to reconnect with themselves is like everything. Like that is truly like giving someone their power back. And you really helped me step into that because originally I was doing more of like online business management where I would go into the back end of someone's business and I would set up their email and set up a funnel for them, which include free guide, doing all this system work. And yeah, that was so empty. I was also like hand painting plant pots, which according to the astrology reading I had this week is very Taurus of me. So I was basically leaning all into that and kind of like almost hiding because I knew that it wasn't fulfilling. And we were in this business course together that we spent a lot of money on. And I was trying to just like make something work that was just, I was hitting walls, so many walls. And through reconnecting with myself, like it's one of those things where something just kind of eats at you and it's like in the back of your head and it's like there's more here, there's more here. Where are you avoiding that feeling that you're ready for more but you're just like nope, can't see you.
Not ready for that yet.
And so kind of like stepping into your power and looking at that head on just frees so much for you because you realize it really wasn't anything to be afraid of. Like when you can look at it you go, oh, okay, I see you, and like let's move forward. So that really helped me step more into the mentorship side of things, started leaning more into my intuition because I did not realize even that what I was guiding people with was my intuition, and that I was ignoring it sometimes to like appease other people or like default to what they wanted. And so really just like shifting everything about my business. And you had such a massive shift as well. I mean, it's so funny because I was like, oh, the minute she took me through, I was like, Amber, you need to be doing this for more people. I was like, and it's just nutrition for you. I was like, that's it for you. And like, I don't mean that in a bad way, like no shame on nutritionists, but I was like, you can do this, but you're doing that? Like what?
And it's funny because I remember reading you and being like, intuitively, I don't see you doing systems. I'm like trying to be polite because we're like new friends, but I'm like, girl, this is not for you. I'm like picking up on like, there's like really like a deep level of like guiding people through and helping them to really wake up to a lot of truth of their power, being led by your intuition and having more like a spiritually led business. And so even reading you, I was like, systems sound good. And it's so interesting some of the things you said around really your intuition being other things that you hadn't even pieced together, and how it was just like this thing or this voice or feeling in the back of your mind that you didn't want to face it. And I remember being on one of the calls with you and you were just like evidently just visibly so drained, and you were like, I've just been going through a really tough time in the last 2 weeks because I'm feeling so resistant. And this is before you started to look at the truth of it a little bit more. And just looking at the truth of it and not avoiding it was not exactly like what you did. What has led to the small steps that you began to take before you could just look at the truth and see it wasn't that bad? Because I know there was like a lot of stuff in between that you don't like, okay, actually I've just decided I'm just going to look at it and it's going to be totally okay. And my nervous system is going to cope with it. And then I'm just going to pivot. There was like a lot of stuff that you had to work through to get there. So I would love to know more.
Calling me out. I'm like, I'm seen yet again. Like Amber, she cuts to it, but in a good way. So many of us think that intuition is reserved for something special, or at least that's what I always thought. Like, oh, these like mediums, these psychic abilities, intuition, things just quote unquote working out for me, or me just like knowing. I didn't really think that that was for everyone. I thought that that was just reserved for some people. So coming into this knowledge that like anyone can have it, anyone can do, be, have, it's just about answering those little tiny whispers. I just simply knowing that they existed allowed me to become aware to them. Every meditation book that you read, I read a lot of spiritual books, talks about becoming the observer first. And so I think just simply having the intention to observe is everything. So that was the first step I took. I was like, okay, I'm just going to like peek in a bit. And so when I would be on a call with a client and I would be in their systems, I would know when those whispers would happen, like, oh, you should ask her how she's feeling, or oh, you should not work with this client anymore. They feel like intrusive thoughts. And all I did was small steps towards one, observing them, and then two, maybe acting on one out of every 10. Just acting on a couple of them. And then you see and you can start building trust and faith with yourself after you start taking those little actions, that things actually don't fall apart when you do that. Because I think that's the biggest fear around intuition. It's like, okay, well, if I've been ignoring it all this time and then I answer this, everything is going to fall apart and it's never going to come back together. And if I'm not doing systems, I'm a nothing. I have nothing to my name. My whole life is going to be in shambles, when actually like I stumbled upon something and I built something so much better.
That's so beautiful. As you're talking, I'm observing the timeline of everything that we went through, because I can literally see you going through all of this. And it's so funny what you mentioned, like actually recognizing what intuition is for us. I think that's such a like word that we're like, intuition. It's like when I know I shouldn't cross the street on this side, and then I go a different direction and something massive happens, like a car crash or whatever, and I feel like that's what people talk about when they talk about intuition. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have walked down that alley and I did it anyway and something really bad happened. But intuition is like in the literal everyday moments. And I remember talking and you being like, oh, I just saw you doing this, or I just saw you doing that. And remember being like, these are the different ways that intuition come up. And you were like, oh, really? Like, didn't even realize that intuition looked like or sounded like that. And it was just like the kind of awakening up. And I think even for me, because I didn't even know about these things a year ago. And I said that in my last podcast. And so it was really awakening to those things within my own life to recognize when they were coming up. And for me, like, I hear a lot of words, and as you said, it sounds like our own thoughts, because they're in our own voices. And when I tell people that, I'm like, a lot of people, they think that they're going to hear something and you're going to hear someone else's voice in your head. And I remember even telling you, I'm like, it's not someone else's voice. It's your own voice that sounds like that it's messages coming through. And you being like, oh my God, really? I'd literally never even heard of that before. And I'm like, well, that's what I thought. Like, I didn't even know that was the case. And it's just like when we can just sit with the fact, like, this is what intuition looks like, what you think is your imagination. And I remember you telling me, it's like, oh, I've just always had like a really vivid imagination. I'm like, you don't have a vivid imagination. You're just intuitive. That's just basically what it is.
And still to this day, sometimes, like, and it's not one of those things that you just like, oh, I'm intuitive now and I trust everything. And that's like how it works. Like, even now, I'm like, imagination or not? Like,
because it can be, right? And I think it brings back to the topic again of like, is it anxiety or is it intuition? And I think that's one of the main things that come up. And even for me, sometimes I'll just be like, oh my God, is that thought? I'm like, okay, does that feel like intuition, or does it just feel like I'm actually just anxious and that's like an intuitive not thought? It's just an anxious thought trying to mask me. And it's interesting because, as you said, like bringing awareness to them and observing them, you can only do that when you know what it looks like. And for you, I just remember that happening so vividly. And then you kind of just being like, oh God, this is it. And the more that we kind of just practice a little bit more, your awareness was there. And as you observe them, it just meant that you had like the courage to act on them a little bit more. And I definitely saw you having more courage and more like almost like agency or self-assurance to begin to act on them. And even like the way that you interact with me, when you started to do that, I remember you starting to open up and be like, actually, like this is kind of like what I feel about it. This is kind of what I picked up around that situation. And you even having the courage to begin speaking that language as well has really been transformative, because it showed that there's more faith and like courage and action, and it's just picked up more and more throughout this time.
We think about intuition also. I think why it's so scary is we envision it as this like big thing where it's affecting big life moments, like you were talking about, like you cross the street somewhere different and an accident happened and you could have died. And so we think about this as this like big thing, but it's actually in all the small moments. And that was so profound to me when you said that. Intuition has also deepened my relationship with so many people, because when you can come from a place that's truly your perspective and your truth, everything deepens. Your relationships deepen. Things with my family deepens. My truth and my relationship with myself deepen. And it's so wild that like intuition, and I think it's like the act of respecting yourself that really is at the core of all of that,
Oh, I'm
you
so
know?
activated by what you just said. Truth of respecting yourself. And I think what just comes to my mind immediately is like, especially with women, it is the idea that we cannot trust the things that we feel or experience. Because how many times do we feel something about a situation and just say, oh, stop being silly, just get on with it, kind of vibe. Or just like, don't think about that, or just don't do it that way. And it's just so activating for me, because it's like every time that we kind of discount or discredit our own intuition, we are disconnecting from ourselves, because we are meant to be like, it's not reserved for just one person or one type of person. Everyone is intuitive, and we're all meant to be answering to these little subtle flows and calls that come from within us. And as you said, it's like every time that we stop doing that, we become more and more disconnected. And actually, this is just really triggering something that I was thinking about earlier, right before this call, just like an hour ago, just reflecting and being like, one of the roughest times in my life was when these intuitive messages were coming so clear and strong, and I was ignoring them. And before this call, I was literally sitting in the energy of that and remembering it and feeling how disconnected I was from myself, because of all the messages that were literally, no joke, almost like a pan hitting me across the head. Like that's how strong they were coming through. And I was just so unwilling to view the really vulnerable and uncomfortable things that came with it, that I would just ignore it. And I literally got physically ill in my body because of the effect that had on the level of disconnection I felt. Even like in that moment, I just want to give it a moment to just like resonate with that, because I literally have chills.
The whole time you were talking, I had chills too. So many of us are struggling with this feeling of like lost, and even with the way that our like culture is around social media. I mean, when you think about it, so many of us are connected to our phone, like myself included, and you are just filled with these expectations and lives of other people. And it's a gift. I love social media for connecting. Like, I think that it has a place. But when you look at like the dark side of it too, it's like it gives you so many reasons to have expectations that may or may not align with your own. And when you think even from like a business perspective, so many of my clients are like, oh, I saw this hack on Instagram where I post 3 times a day for like 30 days, and that's going to get me where I want to be. And so we have all these reasons to like look outside of ourselves or put on these masks to like fit in and be a part. And in the doing of that, we forget about ourselves. We deny ourselves.
Because you really work with people, really with social media. She's an everything person. You did social media management in the past, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is really at the forefront. And you're right, because it's such a disconnection when we use it any time that we're told externally what to do or what will work for us, and we just blindly follow it. That is a disconnection from self. So it could look like anything. It could look like social media. And I've spoken in my last podcast around the course that we did, being told to do things a certain way that just didn't fit for me and the way that I work and flow. That is a disconnection from self. Every time that you, I don't know, pressured into doing something and you don't want to do it, that is a disconnection. And it just resonates so much with me. And I think what you mentioned before as well about how answering your inner callings and recognizing with respect that your intuition is what is guiding you, not only deepened your connection to self, but that facilitated a deeper connection to other people. And that is just so beautiful, because there's so much truth in that. Because when we can like be unapologetic and deeply connected in ourselves and to who we are and our truth, if you want to call it that, that just means that we're able to show up in a way that is more connected for other people, and so much more vulnerable and authentic for our relationships to other people. But I think also, like, when I think about our relationship, because we have from the beginning been so connected to spirit, to intuition together, and so deeply vulnerable almost from the get-go, that has really facilitated this really deep healing and connection through friendship as well. And our own connection to ourselves in our friendships has almost like triple or quadruple the impact that that could have had and does have.
Yeah, I think when you're connected to your intuition and you're being led from there, it's almost like you're more vulnerable and more authentic. And that's just like that becomes your baseline with other people, and people can feel that subtly. And I think when you're willing to be like that level of honest and raw, like it builds connection really, really quickly. And I think with social media and like with everything, we're all searching for that deeper connection. And we're always taught that it's like outside of us. We need this product, we need this thing. And it really is just about like reconnecting. Like, how can you sit with like truths that are your own today? Like, how can you sit and just think for a second and really like allow maybe even 5 minutes for the space of like, what am I really feeling right now? What am I really thinking? And then that goes on. And when you were talking about the connection like with other people and how like it like triples almost, I got this visual of like a light bulb, and it's like you become this light bulb, and when the light bulb turns on, everything around it is illuminated. So it's like you become this light bulb in your life for people and for your family that kind of like also lights them, and then they light other people up. And so it's so profound the way that just us, and it's been taught us like selfish, but just us like recognizing ourself, respecting ourself, it just enables so much change in everyone around us.
I literally had chills as you were saying about the light bulb. And for anyone who doesn't know, chills are also a sign of intuition. And it is a confirmation from your guides or angels, whoever, to really recognize the moment. And so for many people who feel things in the body as an intuition experience, chills are a perfect representation of that. And so when I recognized that for the first time, I realized just how many times I had chills when I was having conversations. Like, there's no reason. I've got my bedroom closed. I'm like all wrapped up. I've got a shirt on. There's like, it's not cold in here. There's no draft. And these are the kind of times that I would have chills. And that is also a sign of intuition. And I remember thinking that and realizing that and being like, okay, how many times is that coming up for me? And how can that be a leading source of me recognizing my own intuition and things? I didn't introduce Carly to begin with in a way that is like what we're going to talk about. And I know Carly introduced herself as this business kind of person, but really this call is to remember and recognize like how deep within ourselves we can go to reclaim parts of our life. And that includes our purpose and our passion. This is this divine transformation. And by really going through the really difficult times that we have both experienced together, through those, you transform into this next level version of yourself. And this is the reason I brought Kylie on, because to really go from this place of disconnection and not understanding her own intuition and kind of falling into lack of passion and purpose around her work, to wildly kind of really going through the depth. Like, Kylie did so much work to be able to begin to reconnect with herself. And then it effortlessly came into play, where I remember I did a healing with you once, and I did like some tarot cards and that kind of thing. And that was like one really, really, really big moment of shift. And it was from that point that you began to kind of pick up the intuition around what you are going to be most soul-led way of working and being. And I would love to really explain that path of disconnection to like really working in your purpose. And like Carly said, it's like her business right now is wildly successful, and this has happened in the last few months alone, and this is without advertisement, without anything. It's just been soul led, and everything has come to you so effortlessly because of all the really hard work and transformation that you did go through, even energetically, spiritually, emotionally, everything, to get through that time and to really transform and be led by your soul. I'm kind of seeing it like a tunnel, and it's like one side of like this dark tunnel and through the tunnel and out to the other side. And that's what the kind of journey that you've been on. And I want to talk about that a little bit more.
Well, firstly, your energetic healings are chef's kiss. Let's just start there with that healing was so good. And, like, as somebody who's done like EFT tapping, like 90-minute sessions, like every day, every week, every month for like a year and a half. And I was doing this, I was doing therapy and I was doing all the things before this without spiritual anything. Like I was doing that all, it's almost like blind. Like I felt like, I had a blindfold on because when you're doing things only at the physical level or you're doing things only at the mental level, you're not taking into account the spiritual level. So despite like working on my physical health and my mental health with like EFT tapping and those modalities of therapy, there was just something that was not shifting for me. And it was driving me a bit insane because I got to a point like where I was $30,000 in debt. Like it was like really pertinent for me to make money and be successful in business. And it is just so wild. Like, we talk about how business definitely is not something that I was coming on here to talk about today, but I could not be in the corporate world once I started the therapy process because it's so deeply connected, yourself and your business. Like your business is just this extension of self. And that was really interesting to me. After that healing with you, it's almost like weird to think back to that time because it feels like I was a different person, but it's like I had all the knowledge from before about like you just see it everywhere, like being in your truth and answering the call. And it's like we always joke, you and I, like privately about how it was almost the universe, like knocking at our door, the universe, source, God, whatever you believe in, like knocking at our door every single day. Like, do you want this brochure? Like, when you said that, I was dead. But it's like, you have these nudges for so long, and if you're not aware of them, the one thing I want you to take from this podcast is to just listen 10%. Like it doesn't have to be all or nothing, but just listen. I promise you that you're probably getting guidance that you don't even realize through thoughts, feelings, etc. But like it's the universe like knocking at my door being like, do you want to join us? And I was like, no, 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 no. So that healing kind of like encouraged me to maybe open the door for the universe that was knocking, begging me to do things. And then I was like, maybe I should take this brochure. And the taking of the brochure looked like actually acting on those little tiny nudges. Mm-hmm. So with my clients who were in systems, it was this really, really slow, gradual change that was almost like a snowball, like rolling downhill that became something so much bigger. I remember after the healing, I like looked at my life. Like I looked at it and there were just parts of it that felt really empty is all I can say. It didn't hold value. It wasn't giving back to me. And I feel like what we're meant to do on this world gives back so much more than it takes from you. Looking at it in this truth and willing to have the courage to face the truth and then whatever is on the other side of the truth. Once I started answering the calls, I realized that the truth wasn't gonna ruin everything. All I did was start suggesting different things to my clients. So I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm getting guidance to like ask about your social media. So like, how are you feeling on social media, for example? And then people would it became more of a conversation about more things than just systems over time. And I was able to slowly shift with my clients. And then those clients went and got me referrals for what I actually wanted to be doing because I started with them on systems. And over time, I started mentoring those people very, very slowly, very, very gently, very, very timidly. And then they just got me clients doing what I actually wanted to do. And once I opened the door, took the pamphlet, said yes, I've been like, I have a wait list now. And I'm not on social media. I'm not out there talking really about my stuff. It's just wild that when you face what you're most afraid of and you have that courage, you are so deeply rewarded on a level. Like it's not even about the money. It's not about the number of clients I have. It's not about the wait list. It's about how deeply like lit up and fulfilled I feel every single day. And all I had to do was believe that that was waiting for me on the other side of whatever I had to look at in order to get there.
That's so beautiful. And you really described your journey like so perfectly. And I actually remember because we did like a few healings. I think we did like a few like Akashic records, kind of healing kind of things in a row. And I actually remember pulling like what was a tarot card pull. And you said at the end of the call, you said, I know everything was amazing, but I just want to let you know that the tarot card pull was like what has really like really sat with me. And it was a 3 card pull, as in what do we need to embrace, what you need to accept, and what you need to let go of. You were dead silent on the other side. Which I always know she's been shook. She's been shook by what is coming up. And this is part of my journey as well, like using tarot as a way to continue to move forward and embrace and understand where I am in connection to what I have to like really accept and sit with, what I can really hold as like part of my truth, and what I can let go of that's actually preventing me from really living to that. And I think the analogy of this is basically we can all do that. We can all do that without even a tarot card. We can literally just sit there and say, okay, if I had to think about it now about this situation, and this is a really good play on intuition, you can literally write a list. And it could be one point in each list, and just say, what do I need to embrace right now to help me with connecting to my purpose or connecting to my intuition or anything that feels resonant to you. You just need to pick a topic and then just write underneath. What do I need to accept to be able to do that? And what can I let go of to facilitate that? And I think that's just a perfect analogy of the ways that you just show up consistently for yourself. And in doing that, you really took that guidance and you look back on it several times and you use that to guide the path that you're on, right? And you continue to accept different parts of yourself and to really continue to tap on and to heal and to work through things that you needed to let go of. And I feel like you were so good at showing up for yourself because that's what you began to radically do when we started being friends. And I think that was a massive shift for you because there are ways that you were kind of avoiding showing up for yourself as well. I think things that we've spoken about in the past. No shade. Like I do this all the time as well. It's not to cause any shade at all. And it's just like I remember talking with Carly and her being like, yeah, like I'm just not looking at that right now. But I think you just begun to show up for yourself in a way as if you were truly deserving. And your commitment to yourself has been what has evolved into this naturally ever flowing kind of pot. And to work with Carly now is a far cry from the systems that she used to tell me about. You like work so intuitively now. Your activities and the way that we work together is just so fun and effortless. Even in our conversations, like you will literally just be like, I'm actually just receiving a no about this, or I'm receiving this guidance or this guidance. And to hear you embody the intuition in that way and take ownership in your business. And I think because of the tarot card pulls and all these things, the main message for you was your own self-assurance. It was trusting yourself and understanding and like almost like validating yourself that you were worthy of more. And I think that was the big turning point for you where you energetically really elevated to a place that you felt deserving because you within yourself started to recognize that you are worthy and deserving and capable of holding so much more than you were allowing yourself at the time.
I think even as you were talking about it, I'm going to call it like when you're not awake, like when you're not awake to you, like I think of it as almost like not that you're bipolar, that you have multiple personality disorder, but there is a relationship between you, like you who you are just by default in the world, like who you have become to be through all of your life experience. There is that you, and that's their conscious you. And then there is your higher self or your universe or your connection to larger potential. There's just like your higher self, right? And so there is a relationship between those two things. So I used to struggle so much. Like before we even had met, I struggled with getting out of my own way. I would know that at first you don't really know that you're doing these things, but I would just dig a hole deeper and deeper and deeper away from this higher self. And it's like a relationship. So it's like when you are frustrated and you can't move forward, it's actually because you don't have a good relationship with your higher self and yourself. And so it's through very small actions of just like, okay, well, I'm going to listen. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to do whatever so that you can kind of like climb step by step out of this hole and build back that relationship, because that's where I found the worthiness in the healing of that relationship. because it became two-way communication, it became creation. You feel alone because you're at the bottom of this hole and you are disconnecting yourself more and more and more and more and more. And we always are taught, like, it's just like the society we're in, to look outside of ourselves for that solution. So it's like you're at the bottom of this hole and you're thinking, oh, if someone just drops in, a tarot card for me, I'll be all better. Or they just drop in, a shopping bag, or they just drop in some food, I'll be good. But it's not outside of yourself. It's not in those things. It's really in the realization that you can sit there with those questions. You can sit with just yourself. Literally, it's free. Yeah, literally, you just have to have like the courage to do so. And it's so available to you if you're listening, if you're feeling that way, to anyone. And all you have to do is little by little over time answer tiny bits of those questions and like pull yourself out of that hole.
I love that, and I couldn't agree more. And I would love to know your perspective or the ways that you've done it in your own kind of journey to showing up to create that connection with your higher self. What has that looked like, and what are like little ways that we can do that?
That's such a good question. So this is something that's so personal because something works different for everyone. And that's really like what I've found in everything in life and business. Like what works for someone else is not going to work for you. So I think firstly is just the like make the decision like right now or think on it this week. Like I am just going to firstly commit to finding that thing that works for me. Because I tried so many different things. I tried the 5 a.m. club. I tried journaling prompts by myself. I tried, like, you name it, in the outside, like external, I tried it. I bought the thing.
Also, 5 a.m. club, let's talk about being in the masculine. Just for a sec. Just for a
um,
sec. Just for a touch.
yeah, I tried that. I mean, I did it. I was proud of myself, but like, it wasn't the thing, no. So, like, for me, firstly, I had to commit to just finding it and to be uncomfortable in things that don't resonate, or to also detach from being connected to something. Like, sometimes I feel like we want to be the type of person that we see on social media doing Pilates. But when we're doing Pilates, we hate ourselves. So if you continue to do Pilates in the effect of connecting with yourself, but you hate Pilates, it's just like an example of disconnection. You're actually
I
digging
love that.
yourself into the hole.
And I
Yeah.
think it reminds me of like going to the gym. I remember this just being like one of those things. And then I didn't go to the gym, no joke, for like 2 years. And people would be like, oh my God, you don't go to the gym. And I was like, fuck no. I realized that I fucking hated it. And I was really disconnected from myself. Now I don't step foot in the gym. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. What works for you doesn't necessarily work for me. And every time I turned up to that gym, it was disconnecting from myself because it wasn't from the right intention and truly from a place of enjoyment. And therefore, it is void. You might as well not go. Because energetically, the intention is not there. There's such a good example, though. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to like really disconnect from the outcome, or like, on social media, you see you want to be the type of person who does X. Like, you have to really disconnect from that because the type of person you want to be is the best you that you can. And like, that's not found in like an inspo post, like, I love you, but it's not. I think for me, like, what I started doing more was meditations. That was really, really where I found. Actually, you helped me so much there because I did not even know. And this is like just an example. I was like afraid to like experiment on my own a bit. We would meditate, and you were like, you can meditate and journal at the same time. Like, it doesn't break the meditation. I had never heard of that before. But the way that I like channel, the way that I come up with things is through writing. And
Me
so
too.
that was life changing for me. Finding that I could meditate and journal and access the Akashic records, that was the thing. That was the thing because when I'm in there, I feel so brave. I feel like that is such a safe space for me to ask my questions and just be there for whatever comes. And if nothing comes, I'm okay with that too. So it's like the meditating, the journaling, and just really sitting with myself more. Like for some people, it's yoga. For some people, it's visualizations. it can be anything, but for me it was really the journaling while meditating. You should try it.
I love that. And I just want to clarify here, like it's not possible to be in a full state of meditation and be present to the present moment. So I think, this came up so I'm doing my yoga teacher training, and this came up when we were talking about the philosophy of meditation. And nowadays, meditation is used as this word to describe anything that is visual or meditative, whatever. But like even my teacher said it, like that is not a true state of consciousness of being in meditation. Meditation is you are not connected to the present moment. You're not connected to the body, to the mind. And so we use meditation so intermittently here. And what Carly really means is like, and this is just being super pedantic, right? Because I'm sure some people who like know what true meditation is when you're like not here in this realm. But this is like channeling. And when we are in a meditative state, etc., like in the records, and the records are just this place, or we'll just call it a place, where all your soul's information is held, and you can access that. And in a way it is, we use the word meditation for it because there's no other word for it, but it really is just about connecting to this place and using your intuition to kind of bring through information around where you are and your soul and all this information, and connecting. Yeah, of course, like we write down things, and that is a way to really bring through the intuition around those things. Because my teacher always used to tell us, like, if you're not writing it down, you're not fully bringing through the message. You're just going to allow it to kind of like witter away somewhere else. And you're not truly like embodying and grounding that practice unless you're writing it down. And I can agree with you, like that is like the main way that I've done a lot of my healing, because when you are doing your own Akashic records or getting an Akashic record reading, aka through a soul reading, the level of connection to yourself and the eternal part of yourself is unmatched to anything else. You're in a place of trust, and we were speaking about this before our call, right? That is trust. That is a place of trust to be in, because you are just allowing what needs to come through and being okay if nothing comes. The feeling of being in your records is a place of connection and deep like truth and understanding within yourself and the eternal parts of yourself, which make it even more important because you realize that you are not just here in this physical being. And in a way, everything that we're going through is not that serious when you can see it in the bigger picture. Whatever you're stuck on or you're going through, there's a way through it. And it doesn't have to be as scary or as serious or as hard as we are kind of perceiving it to be.
One of my favorite things you've ever said, or a reframe that you've ever given me, is like, what if it wasn't that serious? Like, I give that advice so much now. And I'm like, my bestie Amber, she's doing, this is coming from her. Follow her. She's great. She's really talented. And then I'll be like, I call it like being in your human. When you're in your human, you are just consumed by these problems. Like, you cannot see a way out. You're at the bottom of the hole, and you're going, I'm at the bottom of the hole, and this is all that there is. And you feel so lost and just like you cannot get out of your own way. And then it's like taking it and peeking through the higher self who's not in the hole, seeing it from a bird's eye view changes everything. And I think too, like I would not have connected that if we were not on this conversation, that seeing it from the bird's eye view allowed me to become braver. Because if I'm not at the bottom of that hole, at the bottom of the hole, you can starve, you can die of cold, you can, like there are all these like imminent dangers. And then from your higher self, or from a spiritual perspective, you can be so much braver because you see that this is not the end all be all, that there is more. And just knowing that there is more allows you to go and seek for that.
That's amazing. And I think it's like we have both been on several spiritual, I always say it's like I had a spiritual awakening and then I had a second one. And the second one was really different. The first one was the dark night of the soul. It was like, how can we just die as much as possible? And the second one is like kind of like the cards that I pull. It's always like maybe we are still in the death to be reborn, but this death, like the main death happened a long time ago. Now we're just like burning the ends, like anything that still remains. But this journey has been exactly as you just described. It's being able to finally, I think there's such a profound healing in it, because of course, like we've gone through these really difficult things, and this is why our relationship has been so good, because we've been able to go to the depth of everything we've experienced in our human form and just go as vulnerable and as deep and as painful as those things can take us. And we've felt those things, we've been in them together, we've held ourselves in them. And it's like we experience those things and we can really sit in the fact that we experience them. And then that is when our power was found, because we could recognize that we did, and there was another journey outside of that. And those things happened and we felt them when we had to heal them. And from that, this is the phoenix from the ashes, right? This is what we spoke about before, about really putting everything in the fire to only allow the truth to remain. We had experienced those things and really put ourselves in places where we have to heal so profoundly and deeply from our trauma that it enabled us to then use those as a greater perspective. And in our own healing journeys and our spiritual awakenings, we've been able to be elevated out of the human form to recognize our place in all of the human experiences, because our journeys have been so similar in so many ways, and our coming out of them have also been together in a way. So there has been a degree of kind of rising together. It is this greater understanding and awareness, you know, and even some of the lessons that I get taught is like those really, really, really painful and traumatic things that you went through. That is why you're where you are now. It almost had to happen so that you had the ability to heal them and rise from them, and then be there in this moment of awareness for other people who've experienced similar things. And I think those are the lessons that we've been drawn to, because in using our records and in our spiritual practice and being able to take ourselves out of the pain in a way into this greater spiritual perspective, we've been able to see the story of our lives and the way that they've come together in a way for us to be here right now. And that can only be seen when you take this greater perspective and realize the pain was there, everything, all the lessons that we go through in life are there, but it's by using the elevated version of soul information to kind of make it less resistant and stuck to those narratives and stories, and to grant ourselves the permission, really, and the peace to move on from them in a way that is going to be soul fulfilling versus like stuck in the human.
Going through things like traumatic things, they can feel really isolating. And what was really coming up for me when you were talking about how we've gone through this together, that would not have been possible, like us continuing together, had I not gotten real about where I was, had I not, or had you not. So I think too, like just connecting and making it full circle, like connecting to your intuition. And through doing that, you find not only a deeper connection with yourself, but it allows you to finally connect with other people and meet the people who are supposed to be in your life. Like I think about us, and you know, we've we've talked about this and joked about it, about like having past lives with each other and whatever. But I
Facts.
remember, yeah, and I remember feeling so lonely, so lonely. And it's like in that loneliness, not only are you disconnected from yourself, you think no one understands you, you think you're the only one. It's like I didn't have any like friends who really, really got me. And then through the connection with myself, I not only have this friendship, but I have so, so many others that are like actually real. So when were referring to like putting everything on the fire, it's like risking everything, quote unquote. Like that's what it feels like when you look at your intuition or you look at your life for the first time. Having the bravery to look at those things is the essence of putting them on the fire. And once they're on the fire, what is not for you, what is not meant for you, what is superficial, what is someone else's, is allowed to dissolve. And what you're left with and what you will find after that is so profoundly fulfilling. Like I just think about like our relationship and like the relationships that I've created since doing that, and I want to gift everybody with that. Like I want everybody to experience that, and I know that's like what your platform is, and I want to help you help those people do that, you know, like through everything. Like when you have this bravery, you truly are that light bulb that is just like helping others also see the light. And even by listening to this podcast, if you do nothing else, you have also been illuminated, and you are also on your own divine path, and like your time is coming. I think it's just so cool how we're all like affecting each other.
I love that. So beautiful. And 100%, you know, like having the bravery to see the things that might feel like your world is ending, but the only things that are left behind are literally the things that you need and that are holding you and driving you forward to like really live this deeply connected and soul aligned path, that everything is, like you said, is graced from there. And it gives you a greater perspective as well to even see challenges in your life differently, because you have a different perspective. And what bothered you before or affected you before, you can now see with greater compassion or a different perspective and way of viewing things. And as you said, it enables us to just trailblaze through our lives in a way that just connects other people to themselves and gives them permission to do the same, and then has this trickle effect onto all those around us. And it's just such a beautiful thing to, like, really to so profoundly see you go through experience is like a really great gift to me as well, because I've been able to see you, and now you are helping me and helping so many other women do the same thing. Kind of, you're like the facilitator of that. And now Carly, literally from systems, is like really working on our own self-belief and our own ability to do all the massive things that we thought maybe we are not capable of, or we're too small to do. And now you're gifting other people that so they can carry on with their mission and their purpose. And like, this is just a testament to really going through the fire to reborn and transformed into this life of great passion and connection. And you are literally the epitome of that. And that's why when I talk about passion and all these things, like, that is why I needed you on, because you have embodied that fully. And I want to thank you so much for coming on, because honestly, you mean so much to me, and this means so much to me. And I'm so grateful to witness. And I'm really grateful for everything you're helping me to go through as well, because at the same time, you have really been there for me in ways that are so profound and healing.
Oh, thank you. It means so much when you asked me to be on here. I was like a million times, yes. I really think you have just had like such a profound effect on my life. And it means so much to me to be able to help you have that effect and to be able to, be there, because we're saying we're on the other side, and it's like there are so many sides. Like, you're gonna keep going on this
We're
journey.
not on the other side. We're on the other side of one thing.
Yeah,
one
of
experience.
one tunnel. Yeah, we're on the other side of one tunnel, and we're,
Exactly.
walking together. Like, a lot of my clients are like, you believe in me more than I can believe in myself sometimes. And I mean, that's like so, so true, because I think as people who want to do good in the world, we can struggle with so much doubt. And the same thing happens with intuition. You can struggle with that doubt. And I really don't think that we're meant to live in these like silos or these containers where we're just like by ourselves or in our own circles. Like, we are meant to like work with other people. We are meant to collaborate. We are meant to really pass on these very, very like passionate sides of ourselves and allow others to experience that. So it means everything to help you do that, because you have helped me so much. And like, truly, I owe is such a strange word, but like, I'm forever grateful for the impact that you have had on me, because it's just everything. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for what's to come.
And it's actually funny, because when I think back to when we first met, I remember like feeling this connection to you. I'm just being like, and asking my guys, like, are we going to work together? Is like, is there something that we're going to do together? And like, definitely like in business, yes. And I thought that meant you helping me in my business, which obviously we are now, which I was nothing that I ever thought I was ready for until this moment. Now we like kind of had this same vision on the same day of us doing something. And we both jumped on a call together, and we were like, well, Carly was like, I had this vision of us doing this thing. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds super familiar. What was I doing? Oh my God, yeah, I was loading up the air fryer with my dinner, and I had the same vision. Isn't that wild? And so in honor of the intuition and in honor of this really rebirth and transformation phase, we've decided to do a joint 2-day workshop experience to really end the year and bring it in this deep level of reflection and tying in all of the lessons that we've learned to then be able to rebirth and reborn into something in a new creation in 2024.
It's so wild, like, when I think back on it, because I was in hot yoga and I was just enjoying my hot yoga, and we like went to the last pose, which is just like savasana, where you're just on your back. And the minute I laid down, I got this vision of us hosting this workshop and just helping people go through what we both have gone through together. And I just had this vision, and we had to be there for 5 minutes, and I did not have my phone. And so it was just like bursting. Like, I was so inspired by this idea. And then when I told you about it the next day, you're like, I would have the same one. And I mean, we've talked about the connection. I mean, it's just like unreal. Like, that's on brand.
Unreal.
It's going to be a 2-day event. We're going to have a link in the show notes below. And so with this event, what we want to help you do is facilitate that connection with yourself. So day 1 is going to be all about allowing that space for you to really reflect on where you are and look at yourself if you're in this hole, or even if you're at the top of the ground. Like, let's say you're not in a hole, you're listening to this. It's a place for you to really reflect on like where you are. Day one will be all around that, and Amber's going to us through one of her healings, which amazing. And just, like really connecting and diving into like deep reflection questions and stuff. It's going to be like the new moon or the full moon ceremonies on steroids in the best of
Actually,
ways.
it's at the same time, it's actually under the full moon energy. So it actually works perfectly. It's the
Even more
last full moon
potent.
of the year, which is like, bam, creation energy.
We both had like the vision of the same day, like the same
Mhm.
everything. And then
We're
day
literally wild.
literally the
But
same.
anyway, I saw that day. Did you see that day?
And I was like, yes. And then day two will be more of mine, where we're going to do some like EFT tapping to further clear anything on the mental level, because Amber will help with the spiritual level. So we're going to clear anything on the mental level that's, bringing you great resistance. And then we're going to do a little bit of like actionable steps towards what you want 2024 to look like. What are you embodying? What do you want to bring in? What do you want to call in? So it's going to be a really beautiful space for those two things on those days. And we're really excited about it. So link is in the show notes. I can't
You
wait to
can
see
tell
you
that she
there.
runs my business for me. The link is in the show. She does everything. She does the show notes.
I know because I put it there.
I love that. And like what better way to merge and to cultivate something together than to really to play on our own strengths. And mine is like the deep depth of embodiment, and yours is like the deep creation, joy-filled, expansive energy that we can bring us into. And like I can't think of a better way to end the year and to begin the new one than really with this complex interwoven experience between both of our energies and what we can facilitate other people. And I tell you, Carly does this all the time in her business, and she is bomb, like literally the queen of getting things done. Everything that I could have wanted to happen and to do, Carly's like, cool, so we can do it all in 1 week. And I'm like, oh my god, shrieking with the expansion. But like that's literally your strength, and I'm so excited to witness you journeying people through that in this way for the first time ever as a group. So exciting.
Yeah. And it will be too for people who have businesses or do not, just to clarify too, because I know I've been talking a lot about businesses, but maybe this will be the perfect aspect or time for you to look at some of your passions or your purpose, not to scare you, but if like there are some calls that you've been feeling, this might be a cool time for you to explore. But if you love your job, it's also there for you too, of just like what you want to go into. I've opened the universe, like I've opened the door. The universe is in my like lobby or like my hallway. I haven't fully let it into my house yet, and we'll see what that looks like when we get there. But baby steps.
Baby steps. I feel like
Baby
I'm there
steps.
as well. We're like, we made it up, maybe up the corridor.
Okay, I see that. They're like they can see your dining room.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel that. It's a work in progress.
But we're here, and like this in itself goes to show how much growth I've had. I started my podcast, a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and the universe was calling this to me for about 7 months before that actualized. And it's just, it goes to show leaning on intuition and what that looks like isn't really massive, obvious, big things all in one go. It's the small moments of being led to the truth, and then small moments of action and creation.
The fact that you said that activated me so much, because these callings can look like just, oh, a podcast would be cool. That's what she means by it's been calling her. Oh, a podcast would
Exactly.
be cool. Like maybe you're like, oh, YouTube would be cool. Like that's interesting. It's like those little things that you don't notice. And that's definitely what this workshop is going to be designed around, because that's how I work in my business. And so it's like when you're looking at action steps, let's like fuck the roadmap that everyone else has like laid down. Like, no, we're not going to look at that. We're going to look at like what in your body like feels kind of like good. And if a podcast is it, now you're aware to that, and you can take 7 months to start one. You don't have to start one right away, but just being aware to it is everything.
Other people are also messengers for you, and so that is like an expansion in itself. I think the way that came through for me was like literally a client being like, oh, by the way, if this consultation that we're doing was recorded, I would listen to that as a podcast. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. This is the first calling, and then it just went from there. And so as Carly said, this is not just for business. These callings come up in every area of our life, and this workshop together is going to be a combination of ways that we can look at all aspects of our lives to release and to let go of, but also to create and to build greater soul expansion. And Carly, is there any final messages or words that you want to share before we finish up?
I am just filled like deeply with like this sense of love and gratitude. And I just am so excited for all of those who have listened to this. There's some super great takeaways from this. I am filled with so much love that you are here, that you are listening, because sometimes that's the bravest action we can take. That is everything in and of itself. And that is already a small step. And I just hope that this helps you with whatever you're dealing with.
I hope that you can just feel the resonance of these words and use this as an expansion. Because really, like, not even 6 months ago, we were in this deep place of unknowing and uncertainty that is now filled with so much certainty and soul connection and deep friendship and healing and passion. And it just goes to show what small amount of time can do when we're able to show up and be in connection and to really fall into that in all that it is. And so thank you so much for joining me. This has been my favorite episode ever, even though there's only 4. I'm sure it'll be my favorite forever. And we will have Carly on a million times just to talk about spiritual shit. And when we start to elevate a little bit more, we'll be going into a little bit more around our healing experiences and our journeys into our own awakening.